Hello, I'm Q. I'm from Tampere in Finland. I work in InfoSec and I've been keeping a Finnish video blog for a short time with the title Boring Man. My idea is to take a very popular and current political subject, a global subject if possible, and try to zoom out, put it into context without taking sides, as in there are so many strong opinionated videos online already. I thought maybe there's room for a more boring analysis. Now, I was asked to do one in English just to try, so here goes. And today's theme is populism and authoritarianism. Now, looking at the rise of populist forces in Europe, in North or South America over the last 10, 20 years or so, we've seen authoritarianism be a rather key part in them. The people who support populists look for a strong authoritarian leader, and these forces do try to provide it either directly or at least with a lot of strong metaphors in the area of sounding strong, sounding authoritarian. And I'm just wondering, is that an original thing with them, or could it be an effect of their rise? So chicken and the egg, basically. Now, I have a theory. Now, this is nothing more than a thought. This is not a theory studied in a university. It is simply thought practice. So what if? Just consider it what if. This is not studied fact. Thank you. Okay. Looking at the rise of populist forces, we can look at individuals. When Donald Trump first took part in the Republican race, Boris Johnson in Great Britain, new parties in various European countries rising, my case, Finland, Sweden right next to us, Spain, France, Germany. We have a lot of examples which we can easily find. We can find populist leftist leaders in Southern American countries. Well, of course, Jair Bolsonaro too. But in all of these cases, the first reaction generally in seeing these people rise in almost all cases has been kind of quarantine, shall we say. So it can be either sort of an institutional quarantine. The country may have had 2 or 3 blocs or political parties that have led the country since World War II, and there is simply no space for a challenger. So they have no room in the political debate because it was never considered that there should be room for them. Or it can be very direct. It can be that the traditional political forces, they join forces even across the opposition row, and they just do everything to isolate and quarantine this new populist up-and-coming force. And they try to keep it out of the political debate, political agenda. Of course, they might succeed and the populist force might, going down. Nothing came out of it. But if they still stay in the fight, if they have the popularity, they will have to find a new way to take part in the political debate. Traditionally, when in most Western democratic countries, either the force currently in power or the opposition tosses an idea on the table. Usually they do it publicly. It's common practice, but if not, then the press picks it up in a nanosecond anyways. And then this idea comes to the table. The traditional opposing force says that's a horrible idea. That's the worst we've ever heard. That's tremendously bad. Okay, in some cases they might actually accept some part of it, but usually that's how it goes. And they say it's bad, and they say, no, it's good because of this, and boing, 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 boing. The ball is being tossed, the media is being the referee, and eventually, after a lot of tosses, it may come to be practice or even law. But it's taken this very loud and public debate first. And this is how this snowball has taken its form, whatever form it is in the end. Now, the populist forces are not granted this option. They cannot bounce that ball, so to speak. They have to gather the snowball on their own, alone. And what is authoritarianism? It's leading alone. So what I'm thinking here is it possible that this isolationism that has been used on populist forces has perhaps been a factor in why they are so authoritarianist right now, and why this authoritarianism seems to be popular with them? Is why how they talk and how they lead, even if they eventually are taken to be part of the establishment, they might still retain a lot of this authoritarian style. Could it be because of the way they were raised in the political system? Could that play a part? That is my question. I do not have an answer. It's a thought. But this does lead to looking at a few possible solutions. Now, in different countries, different kinds of populist forces, they generally name public enemy number one, putting it a little bit simplified. In many cases, the populist right, it's immigration. Immigrants are the reason of all the problems we have. Populist left, it tends to be global corporations. In both cases, certain global institutions tend to be the one that are hated. There's like a simple thing put on the map, like this is the problem. Now, when traditional political players see that, they might see, okay, they're talking about immigration. We should talk about immigration too, like they do. And I think that's a mistake. You cannot beat the populists by mimicking them. But I will suggest that things such as immigration are just an effect. They're not the cause of the populist rise. And thus, if you just grab the effect, then you really are just mimicking them. And you could be waving their banners for all that it matters. But if you were able to look at the cause and openly find a solution to it, you might get some votes. Now, I'm going to show you a book cover. Unfortunately, it's in Finnish, but this book is titled Financial Politics in the Post-Truth Era, From Thatcher to Trump. Now, this author proposes an idea that actually the driving force between a lot of populist rise is the decline of the middle class. That does not apply to every country where this happens, but very many, a huge majority. Now, let's say you are a middle class person. You've seen maybe 10 years of politics. Now you've had the party you vote for in power for a couple of years. Okay, your situation still went worse. Then you had the opposition, traditional opposition. Things still went worse. You've seen them both there and thinking, okay, it's been 10 years and now I can't afford half the things I used to be able to afford 10 years ago. You're seeing that this is bad. Then you might figure, okay, there clearly is no option in the traditional forces. I might as well vote for the populists. I mean, they tell me that immigration or that big farming company is the reason of all my problems. I mean, okay, at least they're trying something. Let's vote for that. Now, if I were to be leading a traditional political party and being worried about it, I suggest that a way to build a fix depends a little bit on how much room to maneuver you have. Now, any political power that has been, that has existed for a long time, let's put it that way, it has a lot of weight on it. Now, there are forces, there could be lobbyist organizations, there could be religious organizations, you might have the labor union. You have these groups which have helped pull your party to power. And they've helped you, they've helped pay for your political advertisements, and they've supported your agenda. And they've probably been very important to you. But if you do not take the time to question all these alliances every now and again, you might realize, you might not realize if you don't take the time that these might have pulled you up but right now they're screeching you back. They're the ones keeping the brakes on because they've built walls around you. They've limited your room to maneuver, your room to think new thoughts. If they've gotten bigger or if they've gotten more desperate, the squeeze is even more intense. You lose any possibility of political maneuvering, finding new solutions, because let's face it, the world changes, people change. Solutions need to be new. You cannot keep running the same old all the time. Fresh solutions. Now, traditional party could take a look at all these groups which are associated to them. And the key point here, it doesn't actually matter if you're officially associated with them. That doesn't matter because people vote on what things look like. If it looks like your party is associated with a group that has declining popularity, a group that is not liked anymore, was maybe liked 30 years ago, then you have a problem and you need to fix that problem, whether it is based on reality or not. One of the worst things you can do is go in front of the public and say, oh, we're not associated with those people. Just look at these names here. This person is not a member of our party that's in that organization. Oh, you're just stupid to suggest that we have anything to do with them. But if it looks like you do, that's the problem. You might lose votes by just acting all high and mighty and saying, oh, it's all in your head. That's also something a lot of traditional political parties do, and that's a problem. So question these relationships. Question all the weight you're carrying with you. It might be that they're still strong. They're stronger than ever, and you need them more than ever, or it might be not. If you don't do this self-reflection, you will lose the ability to look at the cause, which is bringing the populists to power, and thus you cannot make a proper solution, which will require change. Again, the world changes. Stay with it or just be forgotten in time. So that's my thoughts on populism, and I've tried my best to make sure that this is not about the left or the right or which party is correct, which one's incorrect. I think a lot of this applies to various sides of the political spectrum, and that's my idea with these videos, to look at the wide-angle view here. If this seems like an interesting idea to do it in English, I may do this again. Just toss me a comment on Twitter or here, of course, right beneath the video. Thank you, and unfortunately, I have to finish this, some kind of weird tradition that I made for myself and then enforcing for myself is that I finish this with a greeting in a local slang dialect, which basically says bye-bye, but we say it in a weird way. So bye-bye and se on moro.